Jungle Cruise is hitting theaters, but is it more of a jungle snooze? Listen, if there's any movie that can appreciate a dad joke, it's this one. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with my review of Jungle Cruise, the latest big-budget Disney action-adventure film. This one is directed by Jaume Collet-Serra, who has done several movies that you may have seen or heard of. He directed Orphan, he directed The Shallows, several Liam Neeson films. He's also the director of The Rock's upcoming Black Adam. The movie stars Emily Blunt as Lily Houghton, a British researcher who heads to the Amazon in search of a mystical plant called the Tears of the Moon, which is supposed to be able to cure all illness. She takes this journey with her brother McGregor, who is played by Jack Whitehall. To make their way down the Amazon, McGregor and Lily hire Frank Wolf, a Jungle Cruise tour guide who's played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. We all knew that The Rock had the action star thing down pat. He's proved that for many years at this point, but he also adjusts very well to the dad joke aspect of the Jungle Cruise tour. I could see him guiding one of the actual Jungle Cruises at Disneyland or Disney World and blending in quite nicely. The movie also contains several nods to the popular theme park attraction throughout the film, but particularly in the first act as we see how Frank makes his living. But this trio is not going to be alone on their quest. They are pursued by Prince Joachim, who is played by Jesse Plemons. He is the son of the German Kaiser looking to get the plant for his own nefarious purposes as Germany is in the grips of World War I. Edgar Ramirez also plays a cursed conquistador, and Paul Giamatti's along for the ride because why not? He plays Jack's Jungle Cruise rival Nilo. Jungle Cruise is a $200 million adventure that, as we probably all know, was slated for release last summer before it was moved off of the summer release schedule and pushed to summer of 2021. It is also currently the final movie that Disney has announced that they will be releasing simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus with Premier Access. Now, that may very well be a structure they go with in the future, but as for right now, Jungle Cruise is it. I try not to get too much into my own head when I'm watching a movie, but maybe this has happened to you. Did you ever watch a movie and while you're watching it, have this dialogue going on in your head where you're saying to yourself, I feel like I should be having fun watching this movie? It has all the hallmarks of the pull quotes that you see from critics that are on the TV ads: a rollicking thrill ride, a non-stop adventure, the family spectacle of the summer. And I'm sure that for a lot of people, it's going to be all of those things. But for me, it just kind of left me cold, and I don't really have an explanation for it. It's certainly not due to any lack of charisma from the stars. The Rock does what The Rock does. Emily Blunt is as reliable as she always is. But as the movie went on and I watched CGI set piece after CGI set piece scroll by, I felt like I was watching an adventure happening, but not really feeling the thrill of the adventure like I do in movies that I'm really invested in. Part of it has to do with the musical score for the movie, which I found extremely overbearing. The music is by James Newton Howard, and it felt like he was grabbing me by my lapels and shaking me and screaming into my face, "This is an adventure, damn it!"
Not now, Frank!
It's a very tricky thing, and again, this is a very subjective matter, but I feel like the best musical scores work in accompaniment with the movie, not overwhelm the movie, and I felt like the musical score on this film overwhelmed it to the point of distraction. This is also an effects-heavy summer blockbuster, and the effects are an important part of that. I found the visual effects in a lot of this movie to be pretty lackluster. I was actually just rewatching the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie last week for something I was doing on Patreon, and I would put the special effects from that movie, which is now almost 20 years old, believe it or not, up against this movie, and I think that Pirates of the Caribbean would come out favorably. Maybe it was just that there was so much effects work to be done, there wasn't enough money because there was certainly enough time to get everything done the way that it should have been done, or maybe it was just that they were going for a more cartoonish aesthetic, but that also took me out of the movie in several spots. The movie does have a lot of strengths, though. I mentioned Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt, who are reliable lead roles for this kind of a movie. They work together the way that Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz worked well together in The Mummy, which I thought was a similar movie to this one, a better movie than this one, but there are some favorable comparisons that can be drawn as well. But the supporting cast is strong. Jack Whitehall as McGregor, as Lily's brother, brings a lot of charisma to the comedic relief role that he's been given. He's also, and I've seen several stories already that are sort of touting this, Disney's first major gay character, which I was kind of going back in my memory banks because I thought that there were like 3 or 4 other characters from other Disney films that had already been proclaimed Disney's first major gay character. But I will say, of all the other vaguely gay characters from other Disney films, that Jack Whitehall's character is the most explicitly vaguely gay character that they've had in a movie. So perhaps this will finally be the one that actually counts as the first major gay character in a Disney film. There is a scene that addresses this specifically. It's well done, it's well written, but again, they do still dance around the actual fact. And, you know, I guess you can maybe applaud them for progress, but at the same time, really? I think it's great to have this kind of representation, but again, and I said this with Cruella as well, why don't we just stop dancing around the issue and fully embrace the issue? I guess this is the least dancing around that they do, but still, it feels like we should be taking bigger steps at this point. On the villain side, I think Edgar Ramirez gets lost in the effects work, etc. There's just not much for him to do in that part. Jesse Plemons is the more marquee villain, and he has an oddball energy that I think is so great. I mean, you know, he started off on Friday Night Lights as this, you know, wholesome all-American kid, and then on Breaking Bad is just this like cold-blooded dude. And lately, I like that he sort of reinvented himself as this kind of weird, you know, strange energy. And he brings that to a few of his scenes as the Kaiser's son in this film. But I think for a lot of the movie, he's kind of held by convention. I kept waiting for him to let out more of this weird energy, but he also has to do the villainy stuff that's required of him by the screenplay. And I wish that he could have let loose a little bit more. I guess convention is ultimately what sinks Jungle Cruise for me, and the reason why is that it feels like it just kind of went through a machine, and I guess that's not really that surprising. After all, this is a movie adaptation of a Disney theme park ride, but again, if you take it back to the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, that movie was able to sort of transcend the same kind of thing because you had that oddball energy from Johnny Depp, the kind of stuff that I wish we'd had a little bit more of from Jesse Plemons. You had this sort of roguish, go-for-broke performance from Jeffrey Rush as Barbossa as the villain, something that I think that we're missing from Edgar Ramirez in this movie. Yes, you have the charisma of The Rock and Emily Blunt, but at the same time, it has that corporate sheen on it. The pieces of Jungle Cruise do fit together, but they fit together like the cogs in a machine, and for me, the end result feels like a slick piece of corporate entertainment and not much else. Following the movie, because I don't really look at what anybody thought of it before I see it, a quick survey of the public remarks that were made by some of my colleagues and other people that had seen the movie early confirmed that I'm probably going to be in the minority on this one. To most of them, it seemed like Jungle Cruise did what it was designed to do. It thrilled them, it excited them. I'm sure this movie's going to thrill and excite a lot of people. I'm just not one of them. I'm not really going to make a recommendation or a non-recommendation because I don't really think that how I approach it is how most people are going to approach it. So I will say that if this movie looks interesting to you, if you want to go see this big spectacle type thing, and it is certainly one of those movies, then I would encourage you to do so. Don't let me discourage you from doing it. But I will say that it didn't do a whole lot for me. It did have all of the elements of a big thrilling summer adventure movie, but something just didn't quite click for me. Maybe it will click for you. I just don't know. Let me know down in the comments below if it did click for you. It'll be, as I mentioned, in theaters here domestically this weekend. It is also available on Disney Plus Premier Access if you want to pay the fee and watch it at home. I hope you have a better time with the movie than I did, because I hope that people have a great time every time they go to the movies. Wouldn't that be great? Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see even more of what I'm up to, you can check me out on Patreon at patreon.com/Dan Murrell. And I want to thank these patrons. These are some of my producer level patrons. They're at the highest level over on Patreon. They come and they help keep me on my toes for Schmodown study sessions. We also have watch-alongs, AMAs, commentaries, lots of really fun things to do. I'd love to have you come and be a part of this community. But also thank you for watching this review. I will be here with reviews of movies big and small throughout the rest of the summer and the year. We're heading into August, the last month of the summer movie season. There's a lot still to be written about what movies are going to be in the top 10. Thank you so much. If you're heading out, please take the proper precautions and be safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.